most scary pops, and everybody loves a good scary story. So let's get into it. The Ouija board. Back in high school, my friends and I were messing around, just kind of hanging out, and one of my friends said, "Hey, let's break out the Ouija board." So we all kind of looked at each other, and some of us had done it before, and nothing extreme had happened. But we all just kind of said, okay, no big deal. We didn't think much of it. And that night we were the only ones home, just the 7 of us. And we were all just sitting around together. And so we break out the Ouija board. And one of the girls wanted to try it because she's never done this before. And as we broke out the Ouija board, it had a different feeling to it. Like it was different because the board misspelled some of the words the same way every time. It would give answers that seemed really historically accurate for our town, things that we didn't really know or care about. But anyways, the spirit claimed that it was a 10-year-old boy who died on the property in the 1800s and was buried there in an unmarked grave. Things were starting to get really creepy because we've never had this before where that board was so detailed. But we were still a little skeptical, and we were just trying to figure that who was trying to scare who. So we continued on. And finally, my friend asked the spirit to do something to prove that he was there with us. Then the board moved to yes. And it spelled out K-N-O-C-K. Then the planchette stopped moving. We just all stared at it silently. And then there was a rap on the window right next to us. The lights were on outside and there was absolutely no one there. And we kept looking, and all we could hear was, well, we never touched that board again. And safe to say, it is not in that house anymore. The haunted doll. Those old creepy Victorian porcelain-looking dolls that your grandmother or maybe your mom had laying around. Did they always make you feel uncomfortable, like they were looking at you, like the eyes were just watching as you would walk? Well, this one is actually about a doll that you're familiar with. The frozen Elsa doll was gifted to a family at Christmas time in 2013 in the Houston area, and it made headlines as being a haunted doll, as the doll would recite phrases from the movie Frozen, obviously singing "Let It Go." And it did that for 2 years in English. However, the mother explained that it would begin speaking in Spanish instead of English, even when it was turned off. So weirded out by this, they decided to throw it away. But then they had found it inside a wooden bench not too long after. The kids told their mom that they didn't put it there, and she believed them because, they're not going to dig through the garbage outside. Elsa completely stopped operating in English and began to only speak and sing in Spanish. The weird thing is the family owned the doll for 6 years and never changed its batteries. So the doll would randomly begin to speak and sing even when it was turned off. So they decided to wrap this up in a garbage bag, put it in another garbage bag, wheel it out to the curb, have the garbage men take it away, and they went out of town. They then went on a trip, and shortly after they had returned, Elsa returned too and was waiting in the backyard of their home. This time, the family mailed Elsa to a family friend in Minnesota who taped the haunted doll to the front bumper of his truck. However, it was reported that he went off the side of the road and smashed into a tree. However, Elsa has not made her way back to Houston yet. But the family waits to see if she shall return. The motel. As my dad, mom, and I were driving along to go see my grandma, we ran into car trouble. We had no choice but to stay overnight somewhere. And my dad noticed there was a motel not too far. But when we got there, it looked really run down and just dusty and very creepy. Well, my mom and my dad had their room and I had mine, but I just couldn't shake this creepy feeling of staying in this hotel. I pleaded and begged for my parents to find a way for us to get out of there, but they wouldn't listen. They just said, go to bed and we'll take care of it in the morning. I went to my room and locked the door, and I laid on the bed. But then I noticed out my window there appeared a dark, shadowy figure, and then it moved really fast. So I shot up and ran to the window, but all I could see was a pouring rain. There was a light post out my window, and then I saw this lady wearing a black, tattered gown. She was very tall. Her hair was blowing in the wind. And then I heard a knock at the door. Wait, who could it be? It was late. I looked out the window and the woman was not there. I panicked. I was so scared. She was here at my door. I looked at my phone, but it was off the charger and I had no battery. I couldn't call my parents. Then all of a sudden she called out my name. Billy, Billy, Billy. I shouted for her to go away. She yelled, open the door, open the door, open the door now, as she was banging on it. I had heard stories, but now I know it's real. Hugging Molly is true. I should have never made fun of her. Just then the door breaks open and she enters the room. She was approaching fast and raised her claw-like hands. And I shouted and screamed, no! Just then my dad called out my name. And I woke up in the backseat of the car, sweating and dripping with fear. Just then my dad pulls into a beat-down, creepy motel and says, let's get some rest for the night.